What if I told you that one person could change an entire nation? Not with an army, not with money, but with just words and a dream. Well, that's exactly what this story is about. It's the story of Martin Luther King Jr. and how his voice literally reshaped America. So let's just jump right into that because it's a huge question, right? How does that even happen? We're going to unpack how a philosophy, a voice, and one incredible dream came together to become one of the most powerful forces for change we've ever seen. Okay, so to really get the man, you have to get the world he was born into. And for generations, America was, well, a deeply divided nation. This wasn't just a political disagreement. For millions of people, injustice was just a part of daily life. I mean, look at this. This was the reality a young Martin Luther King Jr. saw every single day. It wasn't just about separate water fountains. We're talking separate schools, separate buses, entirely separate lives, all based on the color of your skin. Two different worlds, side by side. Now, here's what's so incredible. When you're faced with that kind of injustice, anger seems like a pretty natural response, right? But he made a different choice, a fundamental choice. He decided to fight hate not with more hate, but with courage, and to fight violence with an unshakable commitment to peace. So as we move into the 1950s and 60s, that path of peace, it becomes a full-blown movement. Dr. King steps up, not just as a preacher anymore, but as a leader in a fight for the most basic elements of human dignity. And let's be really clear about what they were fighting for. These weren't some kind of radical demands. We're talking about the absolute cornerstones of a free society, the right to vote, the right to get a job, and the simple, profound right to just live with dignity. That's what was on the line. And at the very core of this whole movement was this one powerful idea: nonviolence. Now, this wasn't a passive thing, not at all. It was an active, strategic, and deeply courageous belief that hate can't drive out hate. Only love can do that. And that idea guided every single thing he did. Following this path was anything but easy. It came with huge personal risks. He organized peaceful marches, and he was thrown in jail. He gave speeches about equality and got death threats against himself and his family. But through it all, and this is the amazing part, his conviction never, ever wavered. He just didn't stop. So all of this, the struggle, the jailing, the threats, it all builds and builds to this one single climactic moment, August 28th, 1963. This day would become a massive turning point, not just for the civil rights movement, but for the entire story of America. Just try to picture this: 250,000 people, 250,000 people, young, old, black, white, all gathered together in the nation's capital. This wasn't just one group of people, it was this huge coalition of Americans, all there for one reason: hope. And then, standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, he spoke 4 simple words. 4 words that lit a fire under a movement and would echo forever. They've become shorthand for that universal desire for freedom and justice. His dream was so powerful because it was so clear and so deeply human. It was a vision for the future, a plea for a world where what really matters is who we are on the inside, the content of our character, not the color of our skin. The whole speech really builds to this incredible peak, a call for the promises of America to finally be made real for every single one of its citizens. It was a dream of equality and a dream of freedom, the 2 pillars of any just society. Now, a speech like that definitely woke up the nation's conscience. But the road ahead, well, it was filled with both unbelievable progress and, ultimately, a profound tragedy. That dream came with a very, very heavy price. And the impact was immediate. The very next year, the historic Civil Rights Act was signed into law. But just a few years later, in 1968, the man who preached peace was himself met with violence. And yet, the story doesn't end there. Because his dream, it still walks among us. If there's one timeless lesson to take from his life, it's this: Dr. King proved that real, lasting change doesn't come from a fancy title or a position of authority. It comes from a deep, unshakable sense of purpose. And that's maybe the most important thing to remember. The man was tragically taken from us, but his dream lived on. It planted itself in the hearts of millions, and it continues to inspire the fight for justice all over the world today. So that brings us to the end. And we want to leave you with this question, because what his story really shows us is that change always starts with a belief. It starts when each and every one of us decides what words like equality, justice, and character really mean. So, what does it mean to you?